Uh, so in 1929, they crashed the economy. 28, they redistribute the wealth back. They take away the gold by making us enemy combatants, and they give us worthless Federal Reserve notes for our gold, made it illegal to own gold, bullion. They wanted additional collateral for the next 70-year term. They already had all the public lands. What do they want this time? They want the private lands. So they never put it to a vote to the American people that, hey, we don't want to be foreclosed on. So would you all mind having your private lands, houses, and farms put up as collateral against the national debt so we can spend foolishly for another 70 years and make ourselves rich as politicians at the expense and the risk of your private property? They never asked us that. They just did it. Okay? So by 1933, they had collateralized our sweat equity through birth certificates and made commercial entities out of us and stolen our identity. They had also put our private property up for collateral against the European debt. Some very, very brave people from 33 to 38 took the government to court for fraud, for doing these things. These court cases went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that what the corporation had done to the American people was fraud. It was fraud for two basic reasons. There wasn't full disclosure. If I can prove that your grandpa made a deal with my grandpa and that he didn't fully disclose the terms, there is no statute of limitations on fraud. Also, it was fraudulent because there wasn't consideration 2 days. Will you wash my car every day and wax it once a week, and in exchange for that I will give you nothing? Contract? No contract. There's no consideration going both ways. If I say I'll give you a penny a week and you agree to it, now we have a binding contract. It's a really sweet deal for me, but it's still consideration both ways. So the Supreme Court told the government that they had put our private lands at risk if they defaulted on the loan, and that there had not been full disclosure, and there was no consideration to us for using our identities to be the backing of all the money and to put up our private property for collateral against others, that we had been given nothing in exchange for all that risk. So there had to be full disclosure, and they had to give some consideration. I'm sure they ran an ad in the legal newspaper somewhere, so now we've got the disclosure out of the way, okay? And they said to the Supreme Court, if any of the American people submit any debt to the Treasury, not purchases, but debt, we will pay their debt out of the large sums of money that we are holding in their birth certificate bond. And that was okay with the Supreme Court. Now, they don't honor that, and they don't advertise that. Their own Supreme Court has said that we should have the ability, because of what they have done to us, that our consideration is you should be able to take your mortgage, your car payment, submit it to the Treasury, and it's paid out of your birth certificate bond. Because whatever debts you could ever rack up, it's a drop in the bucket to the amount of money that they have made off of your identity since your birth. If they solved all my financial problems, it wouldn't be 1% of what they have made off of me, and they're going to keep the rest when I die. Like they kept all the rest of my mother and my grandfather. So, that's why on the checks there's authorized signature, because we as sovereign human beings are a higher life form than a corporation. In order for them to control us, they had to have parity. So they, through birth certificates, driver's licenses, license plates, marriage licenses, social security cards, voter registration, titles for your cars, titles for your land. You get a deed of trust, which says right of tenancy and right of assignment. Tenant's where we get the word tenant from, tenancy. The personal property tax is us paying the owners of the property for us being tenants. Isn't that a wonderful concept? Now, so all of this has happened to us, and the Patriot movement has been fragmented and been around for maybe 20 years, and they've tried to use commercial law, they've tried to use maritime law, they've tried to use common law to get some remedy, to get some constitutional rights back to the people in opposition of what the corporation has done. The corporation exists at the federal, the state, and the county levels. It's throughout. It's all corporate. The judicial system all have ITN numbers. It is a corporation court system. The court system upholds the contract of the corporation against your corporate identity. It's really a sweet deal for them. So, the Patriot movement really never was able to get much remedy because the courts are rigged against the truth being, they don't honor their own laws. So, about 2 years ago, we don't know whether the Patriot movement approached the military or the military approached the Patriot movement, but somehow this kind of conversation took place. Maybe it went something like this. Hey, military, you know you're serving a corporation and they're not treating the people under the Constitution and they got you doing things that aren't constitutional? And the military said, yeah, we know. But you, the people, advocated the republic. And we, the military, are not going to start a coup. Okay? So, yeah, we know. We don't have anybody else to serve. Then maybe the military said, but you know what? Maybe if the republic got re-inhabited, we'd eventually salute them as the true commander-in-chief. So a plan was put together, and it all hinged on the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is the amendment that talks about grand juries. We have all been completely delusionally tricked into believing that grand juries are formed when a judge, a paid judge or a paid prosecutor, pulls a pool of people together, gives them instructions, filters what they can witness, tells them what the president is, and tells them what they're obligated to do. And grand juries are only formed at the behest of the judge or the prosecutor. Excuse me. But under the Fifth Amendment, we are all prosecutors. Under the Fifth Amendment, anytime you get 27 of us together, or according to the rules of your republic, you can bring 2 witnesses, bring a presentment against any public official, and that person must now go under trial. It's called a true bill. The power of the Fifth Amendment was discovered, rediscovered, by various patriot movements that came together and pulled their following so that we could get a grand jury in all 50 republics at one time to hear the same case. And the case that they came up with was that the governors are guilty of being elected by the people, but treating the people as corporate entities, working for a corporation, and not obeying the state constitution and the Constitution of the Republic. And the finding of these grand juries was that they had 7 days to resign or lose their option to hold office. And after 7 days, the lieutenant governor had 7 days. Then after 7 days, the third person in line had the option. So within 21 days, if nobody repented, resigned, and retook the oath to the Constitution of the state and the Republic to do the right thing, within 21 days they had acquiesced. Acquiescence means that you have a certain period of time in order to do the honorable thing and to fulfill your obligations and make remedy. And if you acquiesce, then under common law, the dishonored party now has the option of coming up with their own remedy. So after a month or 2 had gone by and none of the governors had done the right thing, and they had all acquiesced, the 50 grand juries came together again, and according to the truth and the power of the Declaration of Independence, provided the remedy of, if they're not going to inhabit the offices of the Republic that had been abandoned since 71, they were not dissolved, they were just sitting dormant, that we would come together and re-inhabit them. And all 50 grand juries unanimously voted to put together a provisional government, just like the Founding Fathers did, elect provisional president, vice president, congressmen, senators, governors, judges, and put the whole thing back together lawfully, peacefully, constitutionally. And they did this, and that's been months ago. That Congress has met. It's a Continental Congress in Utah. They put together documents that have been delivered to The Hague. There's over 80 to 90 nations that are dealing with this restored republic as the continuation of the original government of the Founding Fathers. They understand that the corporation is just a corporation and has not treated them too kindly with their Federal Reserve notes and all their military might. We are in the process right now as a republic of putting together compacts which are more powerful than just treaties with between 20 and 30 of these 80 nations for peace. Okay? Now, we are at the place now where we've got about 45 of the 50 republics hanging together to pass mustard for the military and for the international community to say they've really got their act together and they are going to be able to run the entire country. Originally, the concept 2 years ago was that this republic would peacefully coexist alongside the corporation and have the rights of the republic that we are, just like the Lakota Indians have IDs. If I'm driving my truck down the road before I was in the Republic and my mud flap was torn and my taillight was out, the DOT could have given me hundreds of dollars worth of tickets. If they pull over a Lakota Indian with Lakota ID, they say, have a nice day. He's not in their jurisdiction. They're their own nation. They have their own laws, their own enforcement, their own everything. Okay? If a Lakota Indian gets messed with by some podunk, he doesn't fight the battle with the podunk, the nation fights it. And they win because they're internationally recognized. That has been established for us and is being finalized. We thought as a republic you could join us, get your IDs, and peacefully coexist, get rid of your debt, get rid of the IRS, get rid of property taxes, okay, get out of the need for contracts for driver's licenses and marriage licenses, and get back to constitutional freedom. Problem, okay? The corporation has run itself broke. It's at high risk of collapsing. And we find out that this is by design. They used 9/11 to put the Patriot Act in, which is the biggest usurping of our constitutional due process rights ever conceived, and to start some wars that would put our military far away from our continent. So our military is barely here and is mostly elsewhere. And in the last couple of years, they have secretly moved in a lot of United Nations troops. Their intent is to crash the dollar, crash the stock market, just like they did in 28, 27, 28, okay. And basically there'll be unrest because the money will be worth nothing. And then they'll go, oh my gosh, we have riots. Please, United Nations, come and save us. Miraculously, the next day, the troops are already here, and our military can't help us because they're all over the globe. So this is the big plan. This is the big plan, okay? So what the Republic is faced with now is not the prospect of being able to peacefully coexist with the corporation as we grow over the next 5 to 7 years and people realize they can join us instead of being a corporate slave, and our numbers would grow naturally. What we're faced with now is the military and the international community looking at us and scrutinizing it and saying, are you ready to run the country?